Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're embarking on a really crucial exploration, looking at someone who's truly a modern history maker in social reform and activism,
Mm.
Greta Thunberg.
Yeah, her story is, well, it's just this compelling narrative, isn't it? Full of unwavering conviction.
Absolutely, a young voice challenging the deepest status quo and the ripple effect. It's just powerful, kind of unexpected too, from a single person.
Hmm.
You're about to uncover how one teenager from Sweden basically ignited a movement that, well, it went beyond borders, beyond generations. It fundamentally shifted the global conversation around climate change.
Exactly. And our mission today is really to go beyond just the headlines. We want to explore not just what she did, but why it resonated so much.
Right.
And, how her journey sort of reflects this evolving landscape of global activism. There are some surprising facts behind her impact, too.
Okay, so think of this as your shortcut to really getting one of the most influential social reformers of our time.
Hmm.
So let's unpack this extraordinary story. We'll trace her path from what sounds like a quiet childhood right up to becoming this global icon in the fight against the climate crisis.
Okay.
So born January 3rd, 2003 in Stockholm, Sweden. Greta's early environment was definitely unique. Her mother, Milena Ernman, an opera singer, and her father, Svante Thunberg, an actor.
Right. So some exposure to the public eye, maybe in the family background.
Maybe, but it was something she encountered really young, at age 8, that seems to have truly set her path.
Yeah. In 2011, that was when she first learned about climate change.
Only 8 years old.
And what's really striking is the profound impact it had. It wasn't just like a fleeting concern for her.
No?
The realization about the sheer lack of action, it led to a deep depression. By age 11, this actually manifested as restricted eating, significant weight loss, even selective mutism.
Wow, that's intense.
It is. And this challenging period, it eventually led to diagnoses of Asperger's syndrome, obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD, and selective mutism.
And what's fascinating, I think, is how Greta herself talks about these diagnoses. She calls her Asperger's not a limitation, but a superpower.
Right. She believes it helps her see things with, like, crystal clarity. Cutting through the noise, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And it empowers her to speak only when she feels it's absolutely necessary and with this sort of unvarnished truth.
And you see that clarity, that conviction, play out immediately right in her own home. For 2 years, she just relentlessly challenged her parents to adopt a more eco-conscious lifestyle.
And this wasn't small stuff, was it?
No, not at all. We're talking convincing them to go vegan, embrace upcycling, and even give up flying.
Giving up flying for an international opera singer, that's huge.
It's massive. Her mother literally had to pause her global career. Her father later said she did it to save her child because she saw how much it meant to Greta.
That early influence, it's like a foreshadowing, isn't it? Demanding radical shifts starting right there at home.
Absolutely. It tells you everything about the intensity of her beliefs, even then.
Okay, so here's where her story really kicks into high gear. Fast forward to August 2018.
Right. Sweden had just gone through its hottest summer in, 262 years?
Yeah, devastating heat waves, wildfires, the whole thing. Greta, now 15, clearly felt a breaking point had been reached.
And she was inspired, wasn't she, by the student protests for gun control over the U.S.?
Exactly. So she decided to take direct action herself.
She started skipping school, just stationed herself outside the Swedish parliament, the Riksdag.
With that hand-painted sign, Skolstrike for climate, school strike for climate.
Yeah, and initially it was just her, a solitary protest.
But her resolve was, well, unwavering. She vowed to keep striking every school day until Sweden complied with the Paris Agreement.
Which is, the big international treaty aiming to limit global warming. Requires serious national emissions cuts.
So a solitary teenager, sitting alone, basically taking on her entire government. It really makes you wonder, how did that isolated act turn into a global phenomenon?
That is the critical question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Her first posts on Instagram and Twitter, they were simple but powerful.
And they got amplified quickly.
They did. Key youth activists,
Yeah.
people who already had online followings, they jumped on it. And also this climate-focused social media company, We Don't Have Time, or WDHT.
Oh, okay.
They played a big role in broadcasting her message initially. Though it's worth noting, she later cut ties with them as a volunteer.
Why was that?
She found out they were basically profiting from her name without her explicit permission. shows her integrity even early on.
Right, sticking to her principles, and despite some teachers, understandably, having reservations about her missing class.
She still graduated with excellent grades, 14 A's and 3 B's, I think.
Incredible. Shows her dedication wasn't just, one track.
Definitely not.
So after the Swedish election, Greta shifted her protest just Fridays, right?
Yeah, and that quickly became Fridays for Future.
And the impact was almost immediate.
Oh, absolutely. By December 2018, just months after she started alone, you had over 20,000 students striking in 270 cities worldwide.
Wow, it was really snowballing.
It really was. And her voice started hitting these major international stages. COP24, the UN Climate Conference in December 2018.
That's where she gave that speech that went viral.
That's the one, telling world leaders, pretty bluntly, they were not mature enough to tell it like it is.
Oof, direct.
Very. Then, January 2019, at the World Economic Forum, talking to the global elite, she drops the line, "Our house is on fire."
Such a powerful metaphor.
And she kept going. Addressed the British Parliament, European Parliament, French assemblies. Even Pope Francis gave her a public thumbs up, basically.
So recognizing this growing demand, this need to be places, in July 2019, she took a whole year off school, a sabbatical year.
Right. And her commitment to cutting her own carbon footprint was just absolute. She planned to travel the Americas without flying.
Which led to that famous transatlantic trip, right? August 2019.
Exactly. Sailing across the Atlantic on the Malizia II, a carbon-neutral yacht.
How long did that take?
15 days. Powered by wind and solar. I mean, the journey itself was a statement.
Definitely.
A powerful visual. And this insistence on carbon-neutral travel, plus her, direct confrontations with leaders, it just powerfully highlighted the urgency she felt and the hypocrisy she saw.
Then came the UN Climate Action Summit in New York, September 2019.
Yeah, and that's where she delivered the iconic, "How dare you" speech.
I remember watching that, the raw emotion.
It was palpable, scolding world leaders for stealing her dreams, her childhood, with what she called empty words. It wasn't just criticism. It was this, leveraging of moral authority.
Totally unexpected in that kind of form. It really cut through the usual diplomatic speak.
It really did. And the very next day, she joins 15 other kids in filing an official complaint.
Against who?
5 nations, Argentina, Brazil, France, Germany, and Turkey, arguing they weren't meeting Paris Agreement targets under the Convention on the Rights of the Child.
Wow. A 16-year-old leading a legal challenge against major countries. It's hard to ignore that level of audacity. That moment really grabbed the world's attention.
No kidding.
And her travels, her advocacy, it just kept expanding after that. She led a massive climate rally in Montreal.
Right, part of the September 2019 global climate strike. How many people turned out for that?
Over 4 million people worldwide. Huge numbers.
Wow.
And she made a point of visiting indigenous lands too, didn't she? Acknowledging historical injustices, integrating their perspectives.
Yeah, that became a consistent theme. And her assertive stance, it just didn't let up. She even sailed back across the Atlantic for COP25 in Madrid, December 2019.
Another sailing trip.
Yep. And there, she argued pretty bluntly that despite all the global school strikes, we have achieved nothing because emissions were still going up.
So always pushing for concrete results, not just awareness.
Exactly. Demanding leaders listen to the science, hold themselves accountable, stop with the platitudes.
Then later in 2019, she did that guest editor spot for BBC Radio's Today program.
Yeah, even interviewed Sir David Attenborough. Pretty cool.
Definitely. And then in January 2020, she publicly called out Siemens, the German company.
Ah, right. Over that railway delivery for a controversial coal mine in Australia.
Did it work? Did they stop it?
No, Siemens went ahead with the contract in the end.
Yeah.
Shows the kind of, powerful economic forces you're up against.
True. She went back to the World Economic Forum that January, too.
She did. Reiterated, "Our house is still on fire."
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of joked wryly that she couldn't complain about not being heard anymore.
Well, that was certainly true by then.
Then, of course, 2020 brought the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
How did that affect her activism?
She shifted things online pretty quickly, used it to emphasize the importance of listening to science, whether it's pandemics or climate.
Makes sense. She even met with Angela Merkel, the German chancellor, during that time, adapting her strategy.
Right. It sort of raises the question, how does that direct confrontation style work when the world is dealing with multiple crises at once?
It's a challenge. And her focus started to broaden too, didn't it? Beyond just emissions.
Yeah, definitely. In 2020-2021, she criticized New Zealand's climate emergency declaration, called it virtue signaling.
Meaning, words without enough action.
Pretty much. saying it wasn't enough without real policy changes. She also started talking more about changing food production, protecting animal habitats.
Linking it to preventing zoonotic diseases like the one causing the pandemic.
Exactly. And she also spoke out for global vaccine equity.
Connecting the dots between different global issues.
For sure. Then in 2021, she took aim at the fashion industry in Vogue Scandinavia.
Ah, yes, calling out greenwashing.
Right, slamming promotional campaigns that just weren't genuinely protecting the environment. That term, greenwashing, it's basically companies misleadingly promoting themselves as eco-friendly without real substance, right?
Exactly. Using vague claims, deceptive marketing, making themselves look better than they are.
And her critique of global climate talks just got sharper. That Youth for Climate Summit in September 2021.
Oh, the blah, blah, blah speech. Yeah.
Mocking world leaders' promises, accusing them of just inviting cherry-picked young people to pretend they were listening.
Pretty scathing. And she carried that right into COP26 in November 2021, calling the whole thing a failure.
No holding back. And her activism in 2022, early 2023, showed that continued commitment to direct action, even legal challenges.
Like condemning that British firm's mining on Sami land.
Protesting the invasion of Ukraine outside the Russian embassy.
Criticizing the EU for labeling fossil gas and nuclear as green.
And even filing that lawsuit against the Swedish government for climate inaction.
Yeah, a significant move.
So after graduating high school in June 2023, Greta made it clear, my fight has only just begun.
And this seems to mark a new phase, right, where her protest tactics get even more assertive, often leading to civil disobedience, arrests.
Yeah, we've seen her repeatedly charged and fined in Sweden for disobeying police orders during protests. Malmö in March 2024 was one example.
Arrested in London, too, protesting that Energy Intelligence Forum, though she was acquitted later. Detained in The Hague for blocking a road.
It shows this growing idea, maybe, that climate justice is tangled up with broader human rights political issues, pushing tactics beyond just, traditional protests.
Absolutely. And that expansion was really clear in August 2023 with the Edinburgh International Book Festival.
Right. She canceled her appearance. Why again?
Because the sponsor, Baillie Gifford, had connections to the fossil fuel industry. She said she couldn't attend an event sponsored by greenwashing. Full stop.
Holding institutions accountable for their associations.
And that broadened focus became even more prominent and maybe more controversial in October 2023.
When she started posting in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza?
Exactly. Which drew immediate criticism because she didn't initially condemn the October 7th Hamas-led attack.
How did she respond to that?
She clarified pretty quickly, said she condemned the horrific attacks by Hamas, but still called for a ceasefire, justice, and freedom for Palestinians and all civilians.
But the controversy had consequences.
It did. The Israeli Ministry of Education actually removed references to her as a role model from their curriculum because of it.
Wow. Then in December 2023, she co-authored that piece in The Guardian.
Yeah. We won't stop speaking out about Gaza's suffering. There is no climate justice without human rights. Making that link explicit. Arguing Fridays for Future was always political, always had to speak up for suffering people.
She's actually said, hasn't she? For me, it hasn't been solely about the climate at all. All forms of justice are included within climate justice.
Precisely. And that perspective continued right into 2024. More pro-Palestinian protests.
Leading to detention outside Eurovision in Malmö and again in Copenhagen.
And then there was that rally in Mannheim, Germany, December 2024, where she reportedly said, fuck Germany and fuck Israel.
Which led to accusations of anti-Semitism.
Yes, significant backlash there.
And this commitment to different justice issues, it even extended to direct action like the Gaza Freedom Flotilla in June 2025.
Right. She planned to board it to deliver humanitarian aid. She called the conditions in Gaza systemic starvation and genocide.
But the flotilla was intercepted.
It was, by the Israeli Defense Forces in international waters. Greta was deported from Israel.
And it was after that, wasn't it, when she responded to Donald Trump calling her strange and angry?
Yeah, that famous line, I think the world needs a lot more young, angry women, to be honest.
Quite a comeback. She also boycotted COP29 in Azerbaijan, didn't she?
She did in 2024. Cited human rights violations in the host country. Went to Georgia and Armenia instead, criticizing the COP hosts' repression.
So this whole trajectory, it really shows how her understanding of justice just kept expanding way beyond just environmental issues.
Yeah, compelling her to stand with other causes, even when it brings really heavy criticism and complicates her public image significantly.
But for her, it seems the fight for a livable future and the fight for human rights are just, well, inseparable.
That seems to be her core message now.
So let's talk about the impact. What does this all mean? People talk about the Greta effect, right?
They do. Her credited ability to just raise public awareness of climate change globally, especially among young people.
And the academic world noticed. 224 academics signed an open letter supporting her early on.
Yeah, and political reactions were, well, all over the map. You had UN Secretary General Guterres endorsing the school strikes, even admitting his generation failed.
Angela Merkel credited her with speeding up climate action in Germany.
Right. But then you had the heavy criticism from people like Donald Trump mocking her, telling her to chill.
Vladimir Putin calling her kind but poorly informed. Jair Bolsonaro calling her a brat.
And Greta, characteristically, just changed her Twitter bio to reflect those insults.
Yeah.
Turned them into, like, a badge of honor.
That's pretty clever, actually. The press response was polarized, too.
Oh, definitely. Lots of praise, but also really ugly personal attacks, ad hominem arguments, tons of disinformation, often framed as part of a wider culture war.
But despite all that noise, the tangible impact seems undeniable.
I think so. Google Trends showed huge surges in searches for climate emergency, climate crisis, after she rose to prominence.
Green parties did better in the 2019 European Parliament elections, partly because of her influence.
And maybe my favorite stat, children's environmental book sales doubled.
That's great. And beyond awareness, actual behavior changed, too.
Yeah, the flag scam, flight shame movement she spearheaded, it led to a measurable drop, like 4% in domestic air travel in Sweden in 2019.
And rail use went up.
By 8%, so real shifts. Plus, her activism inspired philanthropists to donate millions to groups like Extinction Rebellion and school strike groups.
And the cultural impact is just everywhere, isn't it? Murals, children's books like Greta and the Giants, her own book, The Climate Book.
Covers of Time magazine, Person of the Year 2019, the youngest ever, British Vogue.
Her speeches sampled in music. By the 1975, even a death metal artist.
Yeah, John Meredith. And Fatboy Slim, too. She's been in documentaries, I'm Greta, A Year to Change the World. There's even a life-size sculpture of her at the University of Winchester.
Wild. And the awards, the honors.
So many. Multiple Nobel Peace Prize nominations, the Right Livelihood Award, the Alternative Nobel, the Gulbenkian Prize for Humanity.
But she donated, right, the whole €1,000,000.
Yep, all of it to charity. And she famously refuses awards if she has to fly to get them. Declined the Nordic Council Environment Prize because she said Nordic countries weren't doing enough.
Consistent to the core.
And in maybe the most unique tribute, several new species, beetles, snails, spiders, have actually been named after her.
No way. That's something else.
Right. Nulliptodes gretae, for one.
Okay, this whole deep dive, it just lays out this incredible, really complex journey. A young person sees a crisis, decides she has to act, and somehow inspires millions, completely redefining youth activism on a global scale.
Quite the story.
What an extraordinary story. It's just such a testament to the power of, well, persistent truth-telling activism. Greta Thunberg's journey really shows us that action speaks louder than words, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
And that a single clear voice can ignite a global movement.
Yeah.
And her unwavering commitment, to unite behind the science, her direct challenge to power, it's undoubtedly reshaped how we understand the climate crisis and the role young people play in fighting for their future.
It definitely has.
Which kind of leaves us with a question, doesn't it? What responsibility do we have, in our own lives, our communities, to bridge that gap between knowing the science and taking urgent, meaningful action, not just on climate, but on all forms of justice she talks about?
That's a powerful thought to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the life and impact of Greta Thunberg. Thanks for listening. Write us your opinion on what you believe is the most impactful way for individuals to contribute to social change in the comments. Subscribe to the channel to help more listeners reach our deep dives. Thank you and have an amazing day.